than 15 times. "What exactly is it that you want for us Americans?" I whispered. "Choice without chaos," he proclaimed. "What the hell does that mean?" Ford explained. "We fell into the pattern of the two-party system, and a lucky thing we did," he added, "since in countries with more than two parties, there's chaos, instability, and a lack of direction. The choice is clear," he added with civics class simplicity. "Loss of freedom with one party or chaos with many." And the problem with many was that splinter groups lacked imagination. I couldn't write down any more of this. My cheeks were covered with tears now that I understood the identity of public enemy number two. Ford was declaring war on the spirit of independence in the name of stability and order. Better yet, this was Ford's kickoff address for the 1974 midterm elections. His target was clear, and due to technical difficulties in economic and government life, it would not be the Democratic Party this time. No, no, no. Public enemy number two was Vermont's third party, Liberty Union, which was running its strongest slate of candidates yet. They weren't contenders for election, but the party's viewpoint was starting to turn some heads. Alternative parties were emerging elsewhere around the country also, some of them already influencing policies. Ford made it clear that, in his view, these new voices were poisonous thorns in the side of freedom. Then on to public enemy number one. If you haven't guessed yet, it was inflation. Ford promised that it would not be tolerated. I felt safer already. He also spoke of a two-prong attack. He would call on number one, Congress, and number two, the people. For what? Quote, "to accomplish success, to win the battle, and to maintain a growing economy." So politics would become a team sport, one with mandatory participation and invisible referees. Helmets would be provided for all citizens. The next day, Ford's two prongs became an old 10-point program to whip inflation now, win. From the podium, he asked Vermonters to pull together on the political fabric. And what would that require? Sacrifice. Not again. I could feel a howl of pain across the nation. Haven't we suffered enough? How about some amnesty for the rest of us, or maybe another point in the inflation plan? Now, this one could be modeled on the Soviet method of dealing with so-called psychotic patients. Put them to sleep for a few weeks. These days, we are all troubled patients, and maybe a sleep cure would actually have some positive inflation impacts. For example, we'd save on gas. Many people would prefer that to another dose of sacrifice and responsibility. But Ford wasn't listening to me anymore. Instead, he was winding up his remarks with some nostalgia about the Continental Congress. After one session, Benjamin Franklin reportedly told the Spectator, "We have given you a republic, if you can keep it." And all it took, Ford added, was sacrifice and vision. Clutching my stomach, I bit at the lens of my Pentax. The audience rose to cheer as I rolled out onto the floor, and then the nearest SS man was hovering over me a second later. Grabbing my legs, he began to pull me out of view, but the cheers and the standing ovation had brought tears to Ford's eyes, and turning philosophical, he winked at me, then said, "We have given you another Republican, but will you keep him?" "Here are my credentials," I protested, "my references, my good intentions. I'm registered to vote." They dragged me out anyway. "I came for the apple pie," I shouted hoarsely before blacking out. "But the main course has made me sick." Did it happen? Well, mostly. And the reason the story comes to mind today is that the same kind of thing could very easily happen again. This was the People's Republic, and I'm Greg Guma.